rebuild of the favorites. We here for the latest. South side or the north side, not tuned to the greatest. Home team for the home teams. Both sides got our own rings. On the mound or the long ball, but we don't put the wrong strings. Yeah. It's that time of the year now. Wrigley or Gantee, so the whole league that we hear now. New show with a new mood. Discussions and interviews. Trade rumors that might be. This is Pinwheels and Knife.
Hello and welcome to the Pinwheels and Ivy podcast. I'm Mitchell Kaminski, bringing you White Sox talk every Wednesday in the 12 o'clock hour. A little bit late today, but 12:59, so we technically did fit the criteria for that promo. Just got a new Pope. That's exciting. He's from Chicago. We up. Even the Cardinals knew Chicago was superior. Fortunately, it does seem like he is a Cubs fan, but as Jesus said, we can't all be perfect. But congratulations to him. Let's go, Chicago. That's a big one. Speaking of which, was in Chicago this week. Finally got to see the Sox play in person for the first time. We got our new City Connect hat. I gotta say, these things are pretty sharp. And that was my biggest problem seeing these jerseys in person. They got a lot of subtle details to these jerseys and hats, and you can't really see them. Like on the inside of them, I'm sure you saw it, but like they got it split from like the Bulls side and the White Sox side and the South side thing. And I think that's cool little detail and whatnot, but you can't see it. Same with the sweatpants. They kind of look like tracksuits when they were out there wearing those new threads. So I'm a big fan of the new hats. Jerseys, still not as much. I'm still giving a C- on those. I think the old South Side ones were better, but you know what? We did get a Dick Allen bobblehead out of it, so it wasn't a complete loss. Shout out Dick Allen getting elected into the Hall of Fame this year, so that's a big deal. Those are some fun teams. If you look at his numbers back in the 70s, man, like hey, I always knew he was a good hitter. You look at some of his numbers, especially those 3-year run when he was with the White Sox. Man, that guy could hit. I mean, like 30-plus home runs, hitting near 500. Dick Allen was a beast. Let's talk about the current White Sox right now, who are really struggling. And we had some more bad injury news yesterday. Andrew Benintendi, he's headed back to the 10-day IL. Benintendi cannot seem to catch a break. He's banged up in spring training, had the broken hand, still manages to come out opening day and play. The first 10 games of the season, statistically, he was the White Sox best hitter. He's leading the team in home runs, leading the team with a 290 average, leading the team with RBIs, had the highest OPS. And then he gets, I believe it was a left abductor strain. And now it's a quad issue. And, since then, his numbers starting to take a little bit of a dip. He was running to first base the other day in Kansas City, or against Houston, I beg your pardon, on Sunday's game. And he got pulled in the 6th inning later. They pinch hit for him because he wasn't feeling well. Will Venable was telling the reporters that, we're hoping that he can pinch hit the series against the Royals. That obviously didn't happen. They're erring on the side of caution. He's now in the IL. Nick Maton back in the fold for the White Sox. That's not really going to help the offense all that much. What has really helped the offense, and we'll move around a little bit here. There's two guys I wanted to talk about. So number one, obviously, Chase Mydroff he had a rough go with things the other night. The ball bounced off his head in the 9th inning of that game against the Royals, cost him some runs. It was an embarrassing moment. That was like the first time this year, and the White Sox have been bad for most of the year. But that was the first one that was like, he felt like, oh man, they went full blown White Sox. Cause this team has been competitive in a lot of these games. Even Saturday, they lost 8-3, but that didn't really show the whole scope of things because they were up 3-0 in the first inning. It's a competitive game through 6 innings. And the bullpen got involved and kind of blew it. So for Chase Mydroff, I'm going to cut him a little bit of slack. But Edgar Caro and Mydroff is especially too at the top of the lineup. He's really improved that offense. Since those two have been called up, the White Sox have gone from 28th in the MLB in runs scored up to 24th. That's a very big deal. There was this stat too with Mydroff and Caro in the lineup. White Sox first 5 games with them, 3-2 record. Averaging 4.6 runs per game. 226 team batting average between the two, and a 328 OPS, or that's the White Sox lineup in general. Now, without them or just one of them in the lineup, the dynamic completely changes. They were 7-22 with just one of them in the lineup, or without either of them, averaging 3.48 runs per game, team batting average of 214. So obviously, pretty big difference there. And then an on-base percentage of 292. That's a huge difference. And you really noticed it, at least for me watching that series against the Astros Friday, Saturday. He is such a table setter at the top of the lineup, Mydroff. He works good at bat. So these guys, even if he's not getting on base, I think guys get a pretty good idea of what the pitcher is doing because he's not afraid to work a count. But that said, he's not taking pitches either. If he has a good pitch to hit, he's going to drive it into right field. So that was really nice to see. Carroll's just been hitting the ball hard too. And he blew that game against Houston Friday night wide open with a ball in the gap. So like those two, if Carroll's not in the lineup, I would love to see him getting DH'd a little bit more. And I really like Matt Tice. Tice, I think the catcher situation we have right now is really good. Tice plays really good defense. He also works good at bats. The only thing lacking with him is the power. But he's another guy that sees a lot of pitches. And I think when you have such a young pitching staff, having that veteran catcher in the room to kind of help navigate some scenarios, especially with a guy like Jonathan Cannon, I think that's very beneficial. So I would, but if he's not in the lineup, because Tice, while he gets on base, there's just not a whole lot of power there. There's not a whole lot of slugging. He's not going to be driving in many RBIs. So I would love to see Caro DHing a lot more if he's not going to be behind the plate catching. And I get you want to give him some breaks and rest, but let's give him some more consistent at bats. Let's keep Chase Mydroff at the top of the lineup too, please. Palacio should not be the leadoff hitter. What does he do well? He's hitting under 200. I don't think he plays all that great at defense. I would rather see Michael A. Taylor out there, completely honest, in right field. He doesn't hit a ton either, but at least he could get a bunt down for a single. He's actually been squaring it up the last couple games a lot better recently, but he also plays good defense too. So I'd rather see Taylor in the lineup than Palacios. I feel like they're kind of similar, but I beg your pardon. Taylor, I think, is a little bit of a better defender. So that's one of the things that stood out with the offense. Now, pitching side of things, I do want to give some credit where credit's due. And I've been pretty hard on Jonathan Cannon. I said, I do not believe that he looks like a major league starter long term. Last couple of games, though, he's really helped turn it around. Now, the biggest thing with Cannon is he gives up a lot of base runners, right? Earlier this season, there's some walk issues. Guys hit the ball hard off of him. He gives up. It's always a tight wire act with him. But I will say, watching Cannon, he's learning how to pitch. He is a pitcher, not a thrower. And all of his stuff moves. It's not that he doesn't have good stuff, but he knows how to work through innings and navigate jams, and he's starting to get deeper into games. That was the biggest concern with me early on, because early on in the season, he was struggling to even get through 5 innings. He was getting tagged so early. Now, all of a sudden, you're seeing him not only getting deeper into games, and there's been a couple instances, like he had to start in Detroit, where he made it 6 innings, but that was only because the day before, bullpen had to get stretched out. The White Sox needed him to eat some innings. So they asked him, hey, you got to keep going back out there. Even though we probably should pull you right now. You've given up 6 runs or whatever it was at the time. You got to keep eating innings. Well, recently, last 3 games, it really stood out. So let's go. Last night, he started in Kansas City on 6 innings, only allowed 2 earned runs, 1 strikeout. He gave up 9 hits during that stretch, but didn't walk anyone, and he got ground balls at the right time. And even the home run that he gave up to Bobby Witt Jr., I actually thought it was a good pitch. He got that pitch inside. Bobby Witt Jr. is just so strong that he didn't barrel it up. He just kind of drove it out to left field. But even that home run, he made a good pitch at the right time. Against the Astros, we saw something very similar. He went 6 innings again. Gave the team, he earned the win in that one as well. Only allowed 2 earned runs. He had 5 strikeouts to that one. Stuff was a lot better. But again, 9 hits. But he didn't walk anyone. No free passes. Made him earn it. And he got ground balls at the right time. And there's a couple times the defense actually, could have helped him out with an inning end of double play. And Lenyn Sosa would drop the ball at second base, and that kind of extended things. But that was another impressive one. Against the Athletics, he went 7.2 innings. He only gave up 3 earned runs. I walked 2 in that one, but he gave up 6 hits, a lot of traffic, but he's limiting the damage. He understands how to pitch, which you like to see. That was my biggest gripe with Dylan Cease. Early on, I thought he was more of a thrower than a pitcher. And that because of that, he couldn't go deep in games. Kopech was the same way. He had good stuff, but he was a thrower. He wasn't really a pitcher. There would be times especially with Cease, you walk a guy and the inning would kind of fall apart. It would unravel very quickly. Where Cannon, you're seeing a lot of mental toughness where he gets in some of these jams and he's able to work his way out of it. He's able to make pitches at the right time. So that's very encouraging to see, especially for this bullpen, because the bullpen's been a massive issue. The White Sox should have won that series against the Astros. Quite frankly, that game again on Sunday was so frustrating to watch because as soon as they brought in Penn Murphy, you knew the game was on the line there. So Davis Martin goes 5 innings. They bring in Frazier Ellard out of the bullpen, strikes out the first 2 batters just like that. Then he walks a guy. That guy steals second base. Now we're in a jam. They bring in Penn Murphy. Penn Murphy, it was like he was throwing batting practice. I was watching him warm up, and this guy couldn't break a pane of glass with his fastball. And it's a shame because early on in the season, it's okay, this Penn Murphy could be something, especially you watch him opening day, Penn Murphy, kind of like this guy. But he's just throwing batting practice up there. Second pitch, he hung a lazy slider. Jake Myers tattooed it into left field. And that kind of opened the floodgates. And that was that ended the game. That was the game right there in a series they should have won. So he ended up they sent him down. They're doing this bullpen shuffle, but the bullpen's rough right now, folks. I mean, and we saw it in that ninth inning, even though ball that my dropped off his head, Boozer had a rough ninth inning, and not all of that was on them. There was a lot of throwing errors going around. So, you can't really blame a ton of that on them. But the biggest concern entering the season was going to be this team's bullpen, especially with the offense being as inconsistent as it is. So when you have those chances to close out these wins, like that's why that ninth inning meltdown against Kansas City is so frustrating. The White Sox don't have many of these opportunities, especially in close games. And that's why you've seen almost all their wins have been blowout wins because, the bullpen doesn't have that pressure on them. But been a couple instances this past week, it feels like we should have 2, if not 3 more wins than we do just in this last week alone. But I do want to give credit to Jonathan Cannon. He's been throwing the ball a lot better. I was pretty harsh on him early. And so, credit where credit is due there. And I hope he keeps developing. This guy could be, I still think guys hit the ball too hard off of him. But that he's learning how to pitch well, and he's limiting the damage like he is. If he can continue to improve, you know what? I could see him. Maybe he's a 5th starter in the future. We'll see. Braden Montgomery, by the way, minor leagues right now, he's really tearing it up. I wanted to talk about another minor leaguer that we talked about last week just a little bit, Tim Elko. But if we're going to be talking about the minors briefly, Braden Montgomery's been a beast. He just had a walk-off home run the other day. He looks as advertised. He might be the best player they got back in that trade. And that trade for Garrett Crochet is looking pretty good. It's looking better and better every day, especially what the early returns we've gotten from my draw. So, I mean, and then you still got Teal, who, kind of was the headliner of that package. He's still raking down in AAA. Really saw, he was at the Charlotte Knights or Charlotte Checkers game the other day. He was ringing the cowbell. So that was pretty cool to see. I like Teal. I'm excited to see him come up. He seems like he's got a good personality. Montgomery too. I mean, even when at Sox Fest this year, he was one of the prospects who really impressed me. They were asking him like, what's your favorite baseball memory? And his was not even something he had accomplished. It was, it was in college. We were in sectionals and a teammate hit a walk-off home run and celebrating with them on the field. That was my favorite baseball memory. And that said a lot. I mean, it was like this guy, out of all the memories you could have picked something that didn't even have to do with him. So that was pretty impressive. Glad to see he's raking down there. Now, a lot of debate's been going on about Tim Elko. Andrew Vaughn really, really struggling as of late. Now I'm going to pull this up because after we talked about this a little bit last week, and my whole thing is I agree. Elko, he deserves a shot. He's earned it, right? He's 26 years old. What are we waiting for? Now I'm pumping the brakes a little bit on we got to DFA Andrew Vaughn, like get him off the field that quickly because there's no guarantee Elko comes up and he's not the same thing as Andrew Vaughn. Right? The strikeout levels were really a concern. He's cut down on that a bit. He's not chasing as much outside of the zone, which is really good. But it's still a pretty high chase rate. It's improved, but it's still relatively high, which that's a bit concerning. I'm going to pull up this. I want to make sure we got we got our numbers right. So Andrew, well, this is what I've really noticed with him. So he's been one of the worst hitters in baseball. First 100 plate appearances this year. He has 20 RBIs, or that was Elko, excuse me. This is Elko's numbers, his first 100 plate appearances, and this is why he deserves a call up. Hitting 356, 430, 713. That's pretty impressive. Meanwhile, you got Vaughn, one of the worst qualified hitters in baseball. He's slashing 160, 204, 274 in his first 100 at-bats. 3 homers, 11 RBIs. There's way too many instances with Vaughn where you have runners on base. We saw it against, I believe it was Oakland, where they let the winning run go on first base. They walked the winning run on first base because they were not afraid of Andrew Vaughn coming up to the plate. They're like, yeah, you know what? We'll let a base run around. We're going to pitch around Robert to get to Vaughn. So he's been bad. The offensive numbers have been bad. But the barrel percentage, like he's been hitting the ball hard. Like despite the poor offensive numbers, his barrel percentage, hard hit percentage, average exit velocity, they all rank in the top 20 of the MLB. So I wanted to look at it as like, why is this not clicking? Is he just this unlucky? And what I found was looking through Baseball Savant, it's very, and it's kind of been an issue his entire career, honestly. When he does hit the ball, he's not getting in the air enough. Too many ground balls. Like how many times you got to do a drinking game for every time Andrew Vaughn hit into an inning and a double play in a clutch situation? I mean, I'd have my liver would be done. Be done. It seems to happen all the time. Way too many ground balls. When he does get the ball in the air, oftentimes it's to right field. I'm all for using the whole field, opposite direction. Actually, when I used to be playing, that was one of the things the hitting coach would always say, You knew when I was like locked in, if I could drive the ball to left field, even without or right field, without even trying. As a right-handed hitter, like so, it's nice they sprayed the ball all over the park. I'm fine with that. But Vaughn almost exclusively when it's in the air, right field, right field, right field. Well, all of his power and his strength is coming when he pulls the ball. The majority of his success early on has been when he's been able to pull the ball, but he doesn't do it all that often. So we got two big issues. He's hitting the ball hard on the ground, too much to right field. Because you'll see a lot of times he'll hit one hard, but it'll just kind of fizzle out at the warning track in right field. So he currently owns a career high 47.6 ground ball rate. Now, that's not going to play, especially when you're supposed to be one of the leading offense producers. And then he's pulling the ball in the air at a just 15% clip compared to 26.8% to opposite field. So neither particularly high. He doesn't get in the air that often, but when he does, way too often it's to right field. But when he's been successful this season is when he pulls the ball. Out of his first 17 hits, now mind you, this is only through his first 100 at-bats because I wrote this last week. But of his first 17 hits, only 2 went to right field. So, I mean, that's something, if he can just start pulling the ball more, and maybe it's the way pitchers are pitching to him. I'm sure he has seen this data. If I'm fine, I'm sure I would hope the White Sox scouts and everything, they're seeing this too, but we got to find a way to start getting Vaughn to drive the ball to left field. Otherwise, it's going to be a long season. A long, frustrating season with him blowing it in key situations. But again, I'm not saying DFA him. I think Vaughn, it's a long season. These numbers can turn around. I still think he has some talent, but it is time to give Elko a shot. Let's just not act like, I just don't want fans to act like, Elko's the magic silver bullet and he's going to be raking when he gets up there. He's earned the shot. Let's give it to him. But at the same time, Vaughn, will like it or not, he should be on this team the rest of the season. Like, it's just kind of that'd be how it is, because there's no safety net after Elko. You can't just DFA. If I have to see another DFA Vaughn tweet, it's like, it's dumb. It's dumb. I don't like him either, but like, he's going to have to play things out. You need at least that safety net. And Vaughn, at the end of the day, we see him start out slow last year too. I think by the season's end, he's going to be what he's always been, around a 250 hitter. That's going to give us about 20 home runs, 75 to 80 RBIs. You can do a lot worse than that. You could. I mean, it's frustrating because he's not the superstar, but I mean, this is what he is. But if we want to see some improvement or take that next step, you got to get the ball in the air and start pulling it a little bit more. Too much to right field, too many ground balls. That's just my observation and my uninformed opinion. But we will see. We'll see how it plays out. I think I had one more thing I want to talk about, but now it's escaping. Oh yes, speaking of Vaughn, there's a little bit of drama that came out here. Now it says since deleted post. Preface it with that. But former leader Tyler Osick, he had a pretty scathing review of Andrew Vaughn when he was trying to prop up Elko, being like, hey, we should call him up. Essentially, he said, Andrew Vaughn, we used to work out in the fall facility or the facility over the winter. Be grinding really hard. He was like, Vaughn would just come in once in a while, do a quick hour workout, like do with the 40-pound weights, hit a couple balls off the tee, and then spend a lot of his time golfing. Like he'd come in like a couple times a week while the rest of us would be there every day. A lot of his time was spent golfing. That's why he never improved. And that's why it was a slap in the face to the rest of us. Well, he's since deleted that. But, there's a lot of speculation. Now, I don't know how much to believe about that. Because it is, obviously Osick, he probably got a little bit of an agenda, probably a little salty. But at the same time, I could see it. Vaughn is talented enough. Silver Spikes winner. You saw him. If you saw him, he was one of the best college hitters in the country. He was picked right after Bobby Witt Jr., which I know frustrates a lot of White Sox fans, but at the time, that was a good pick. Like, the man raked in college. He's the best college hitter in the country at one point out in Cal. So I do think he is talented enough where it wouldn't surprise me that, like, without working that hard in the offseason, that he could just come in and, I'll hit 240, 20 bombs, 75 RBIs. I mean, I can see it. Don't know if I believe it. Taking it with a grain of salt. But I did find that interesting. And I did think it kind of explained a lot. Because at some point, and I've made a lot of excuses for Vaughn. I think Vaughn's a better player than people give him credit for. I think he gets a lot more crap than he deserves. But at the same time, there's only so many excuses I can make for the guy. Right? Like, the right field thing, I thought that was a valid excuse. I thought they really stunted his development. It's hard enough learning how to hit MLB pitching, which is the hardest thing to do in sports, while also playing a position you've never played before. That's tough. Being a rookie on a contender that's gunning for a division, there's added pressure there. That's also tough. Not being used to being in right field a full season. It's kind of harder on your legs, especially this, 162 game grind. So second half numbers are clean. That's tough. Okay. Make them all the excuses, But at this point, we got a new hitting czar. You're back at first base. You've had multiple years back at first base. I guess there's no line of protection, but you know what? You're supposed to be the line of protection for other people at this point, Vaughn. The excuses are gone. The excuses are gone. We've seen what he is at this point. I don't have any more excuses for the guy. At some point, you just got to produce. You just got to produce. Especially when we get these, there's too many, the 2-out hitting, runners in scoring positions is what the most frustrating thing is. Because this team scraps and claws. They get runners on base. Now, oftentimes it's a single because they don't have enough power on this team. And that's the biggest thing holding this offense back. Not enough home runs. And a lot of slap hitting and single. But they get guys on base. And it's just too often, like, they don't capitalize on it. They don't have enough clutch hitting. We got to start seeing that. Robert's starting to turn it on a little bit. He's been pretty good. His early numbers didn't really show up, but he's been a very productive player for this team. Leads the MLB or the AL in stolen bases. He was top 10 for a while in walks. I think he's since fallen out, but he does have a career high walk rate right now. When he gets on base, he's kind of almost turning that from a single to a double. 500th career hit the other day against the Astros, too. Home run. He's starting to heat up with the power. I think when the weather comes, he's going to get a little bit better. So I think he I think he's going to improve his value just enough where they can get a decent return for him at the deadline, because I think his value is starting to slowly rise, and those numbers are only going to improve in a little bit. So that'll be interesting to see. One more game against, I believe we got one more against the Royals today. Afternoon start, getaway day. Already started, bottom of the first inning. So I'm going to go put that on as I get ready for work. Davis Martin on the bump. They got a good chance to win this one. Davis Martin, probably the best pitcher outside of Shane Smith right now in this rotation. Funny enough with Shane Smith, we just got a new set the new station I work at. We had to do dress rehearsals for this new set. So we kind of had to do a mock show. So they're like, hey, Mitch, just go out there, just like do a fake story. Like anything in particular you want. And, we have our general manager, huge Royals fan, diehard Royals fans. I'm like, you know what? I'll do a nice breakdown on Shane Smith's changeup. And he's like, who is Shane Smith? Yeah, obviously being a Royal fan, you're probably not going to be keeping up with a Rule 5 pick for the White Sox. So I'm trying to learn a little bit about him. I'm telling you, this guy, you might not have heard of him yet. He's really good, though. In a few years, he's gonna be good. Well, he watches every Royals game. Shane Smith started against the Royals. Next day he comes to the office. He's like, man. And this wasn't even a good Shane Smith start, in my opinion. It was like one of his more underwhelming ones of the season. He came in, he's like, yeah, man, I think you're right about this Shane Smith. That kid's got good stuff. And he's kind of come out of nowhere. He's like, how have I never heard of this guy before? So kudos to the White Sox. It feels like they finally found a diamond in the rough that has panned out. They take a lot of these flyers on guys like that. This one's finally panned out. We talked about it. I'm not even going to go back into it. The pitch count thing after the 5th inning thing, that's real. Splits through 4 innings have been impeccable this year. I mean, he's been, the stuff's there. Just going to be building that arm back up so he can go deeper into games too. We just got to start getting into the 6th inning a little bit more consistently, but it's still early. It's still early in his career. The stuff's clearly there. And this first guy watching him in the start that I didn't even think he was all that impressive. Diehard Royals fans like, yeah, you guys got one there. So that was good to see. That's all I got for you. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to follow us at Sports Mockery, sportsmockery.com. You can read all of keep the latest on the White Sox happenings there. You can read that breakdown on Luis Robert and Andrew Vaughn I was talking about as well. And then obviously all the latest White Sox news, we get that up there as well. And then of course at Pinwheels Pod, Cubs, fun team this year, man. Fun team. I'm enjoying, following them. It's nice to see Fids and Aldo happy about their team this year. So give them a follow as well. Another new Pope's a Cubs fan. I'm sure he's excited too. So, for the Pope, tune into Pinwheels and Ivy. Give us a follow at Pinwheels Pod, and you can listen to our Cubs content as well. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful rest of your week.